I am staying awake. I just need to get away from the buzzer.
Oh, I ring the doorbell to Maggie's room, and it doesn't make a sound. It just like...
Let's go.
Put it back. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Oh my god.
Patients in this colony were secretly injected with cancer cells, according to a letter from Cornelius P. Rhodes. A pre-reformed governor of this colony was Brain Trust member Rexford Tugwell. This
Nice.
10.
Good job.
Or,
Wait, what?
20.
Bro.
I'm used to ACF National.
What is this? NEQT.
Bonus. This compound is the simplest alkane that has an isomer for 10 points each. Name this alkane an excellent refrigerant since that both it and its isomer liquefy just below room temperature. Burning a mole of it makes 4 moles of CO2 and 5 moles of water.
This isn't like that, right? I'm probably not. That's like
Answer?
ethylene glycol.
It's butane.
Fine.
Isobutane is a greener refrigerant than these halogenated ozone-destroying molecules known by a 3-letter initialism. They were banned by the Montreal Protocol.
CFC.
CFCs.
Isobutane can still form radicals, though, because it has a carbon atom with this substitution pattern. Due to hyperconjugation, this type of carbon atom also forms the most stable carbocations.
What's a substitution pattern?
I don't
Answer?
know.
Trigo, please.
Tertiary carbon atom. So that is 10 for the middle. Toss up 2. In the Ithaca chapter of Ulysses, this character's name is repeated dozens of times with different first letters. Akin to Odysseus, this character blinds a giant with 2 kebab sticks. In one story, this character gets trapped in the tomb of his late wife, a pepper gatherer. This character rescues a king's mare from a seahorse after mistaking a giant whale for an island. The story of this character is told in a frame story that a wealthy man narrates to a porter who shares his name. This character arrives at a valley of diamonds after escaping
Sinbad.
10. Columbia Records issued the first LP in 1948 with a recording of Nathan Milstein as this piece's soloist. For 10 points each, name this piece in which the soloist enters almost immediately with an E minor theme that gave the composer no peace.
No piece.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably some concerto.
Oh, I picked one.
Answer?
Very good.
Mendelssohn's Violin
There
Concerto.
we go. Yeah, that's right.
Mendelssohn wrote in this part of his violin concerto rather than let the soloist improvise it. The orchestra is usually silent during these virtuosic passages
Cadenza, right.
that allow the soloist to show off.
Cadenza.
Mendelssohn wrote his violin concerto to be formed attacca, possibly to discourage the audience from doing this between movements. Traditionally, this action is only performed after each piece in a concert.
Clapping.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Clapping.
Yep,
It's a good bonus.
that is 20 for the last 2. Toss up 3. The inverse of this function bounds the magnitude of the Mertens function, the disproven Mertens conjecture. If there exists an integer n for which this function of n equals q mod p, then the Legendre symbol of q over p equals 1. This function is applied to y when defining an elliptic curve. The Mobius function is non-zero for numbers that are free of this function, meaning that their prime factorizations contain no repeats. Replacing this function with any higher order analog causes an equation
Squared.
10.
Prime factorization.
Venetians initially thought that they had lost this battle because the crew of the Angelo Gabriele was dressed in captured enemy clothes. For 10 points each, name this battle where the victorious side was supported by Sebastiano Venier, who served alongside Don John of Austria.
Lepanto.
I thought that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
Lepanto.
This monarch had his messenger repeat accounts of the Holy League's victory at Lepanto. This Habsburg king launched the Spanish Armada.
Philip II.
Yeah.
Philip II.
Nice.
After fighting at Lepanto, John of Austria won the 1578 Battle of Gembloux, which forced this man to leave Brussels. His final marriage was to Gaspard de Coligny's daughter, a year before he was shot by Balthasar Gerard.
Henry IV, right?
No, it's William the Silent.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
William the Silent.
Yep,
What am I doing, bro? Good job.
that is 30.
Shut up.
Toss up 4. White borax islands break up the otherwise red landscape of this country's Laguna Colorada, home to a population of James's
Bolivia?
20.
Nice.
The epigraph of Fahrenheit 451 is this Spanish poet's quote, "If they give you ruled paper, write the other way." For 10 points each, name this poet who wrote, "I am this one walking beside me whom I do not see, and I am not I." This author wrote a prose poem about Platero, an animal made out of button with no bones.
Spanish poets.
That's not Garcia Lorca.
Go for Garcia
Answer.
Lorca.
No es Garcia Lorca.
It's Juan Ramon Jimenez.
Sure.
In Platero y Yo, Platero is one of these animals. Nick Bottom's head is transformed into that one of these creatures.
That one changed. Ass.
In the poem titled For This Object of the Sea, Jimenez declares, "You could give back this thing to this thing." A Robert Herrick poem recommends gathering these things since old time is still a-flying.
Rosebuds.
Go for it.
Rosebuds.
Let's go.
Gather ye rosebuds while you may. That's 20 for the last two, and toss up 5. This person was accompanied by a retinue of blue ladies.
Email the Marcos.
That's 20.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Down.
A false detection of the meson consisting of this particle and its antiparticle was named for a pun on the name of its discoverer, Leon Lederman, for 10 points each. Name this particle of matter found in the Upsilon meson. Kobayashi and Masukawa's CKM matrix implies the existence of this negatively charged particle in order to explain CP violation.
How about kaons?
Sure.
Kaons.
These are bottom quarks.
Sure.
In 2019, Alice detected low elliptic flow from Upsilon mesons in a type of plasma named for quarks and these particles. These particles and quarks carry color charge.
Gluons.
Alice is an experiment at this collider. The Higgs boson was discovered by this main collider at CERN.
LHC.
Yeah.
LHC.
Yep. That is last 2 for 20. Toss up 6. This character overcomes the freezing northwest wind with a tablecloth and a set of Appalachian tales compiled by Richard Chase. This slayer of blunderboards decapitates Lucifer, joins the round table, and owns a belt boasting of Cormoran's death. A fairy urges this character to repossess a castle in the sky that belonged to his murdered father. This character steals a bag of gold from a figure who wants to grind his bones to make my bread. A magical harp cries out mass.
Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk.
Nice.
That was a guess.
There was no children's literature at this location.
This is a world mythology.
Even better.
Yes. The enslaved man Onesimus was instrumental in mitigating the effects of a smallpox outbreak in this city by advocating the variolation method. For 10 points each, name this city where, in a later outbreak, Nicholas Murphy imposed a quarantine at Paul Revere's house.
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston.
The 1721 outbreak was carried to Boston by the HMS Seahorse, which was coming from this colony. The enslaved man Busa led a revolt in this colony, which had a 1661 slave code.
This colony. Virginia.
Answer?
Go.
Virginia.
Barbados.
Ooh.
Onesimus had taught the variolation method to this preacher to prevent the spread of smallpox. This preacher described his suspicions of witchcraft in Wonders of the Invisible World.
Mather.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Wait. Mather.
Yep.
Nice.
No prompts. Wow.
20. Toss up 7. Besides the Tractatus, the only book Ludwig Wittgenstein published in his lifetime was one of these texts for children. James Murray used an extensive series of slips to gather evidence for one of these texts. The letter to Chesterfield was written on the completion of one of these texts in 1755. A history by Simon Winchester chronicles William Chester Minor's contributions to one of these books from...
Encyclopedia.
No. One of these books from an asylum. In 2023, sometimes offensive sections were added back to one of these texts by NASPA, a group that runs board game tournaments. A compendious one of these books by an American broke from British spelling. For 10 points in this type of book compiled by lexicographers like Noah Webster.
Dictionary.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
William Carlos Williams observed how this sculptor became a recluse who broiled steaks in his studio after the death of his pet Samoyed Polaire. For 10 points each, in this Romanian sculptor whose animal-inspired works include Bird in Space. A 1930 Brancusi sculpture of one of these animals consists of a marble slab that can be spun on a pivot. Alexander Calder's first large-scale stabile was a black metal sculpture of one of these animals called Devil.
No.
Should we just say flamingo?
It's not. It's black.
Answer?
Fish.
Yeah, it's devilfish.
Nice.
This museum's massive Brancusi collection includes the Flying Turtle and the Miracle Seal. This museum's collection lines a 6-story spiral ramp designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Guggenheim.
Yep, at 30. Toss up 8. Louis Baltz photographed the doors and facades of the new industrial parks in this U.S. state for a 1974 photo book. Julius Schulman photographed the Stahl House, one of the case study homes built in this state's largest city. A 1966 photo book depicting every building on a street.
California.
Yep, that's it. Or 20. Sorry. Lauren Euler sarcastically pondered taking the title of this author for girls in a 2023 Harper's essay about going on a goop cruise. For 10 points each, name this author whose own Harper's essay on the cruise industry was originally published as Shipping Out, but is better known as A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again.
Wallace.
Buster Wallace.
Wallace considered Blood Meridian, a novel by this author of The Road, one of the most underappreciated novels since 1960.
McCarthy.
This author reflected on Wallace's suicide and Robinson Crusoe in the 2011 essay Farther Away. This author's 2021 novel Crossroads is the first in a planned trilogy titled A Key to All Mythologies.
Branson.
That's 30. Toss up 9. This novel's title character declares that man is born to live, not to prepare for life. A soldier in this novel shoots a man from laughter, stupidly, for no reason, before murdering his family. Hamlet pleads to just once to be relieved from his role in one of the 25 poems from the Notebook.
Dr. Zhivago.
That's 20. Purchasers of this product may proceed to act more riskily in a classic example of moral hazard. For 10 points each, in this general product purchased by buyers to protect themselves against losses resulting from unforeseen events, like car accidents or hospital visits.
Insurance.
Moral hazard occurs due to an asymmetry in this concept because the insurance seller cannot monitor the policyholder after the transaction.
Information, right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Information.
Moral hazard is modeled using contracts between a principal and one of these entities who may have differing incentives. This is the generic term for an individual and a type of stochastic model in the social sciences based on them.
Like, party? I don't know.
That would make sense.
Oh, actually. Okay, a party?
It's an agent-based modeling or principal-agent problem. So that is 20 for the first two, toss up 10 after which we'll have halftime. A choral work by Morton Lauridsen used the same text as this composer's song, Shore on this Shining Night. This composer wrote the aria, Must the Winter Come So Soon, for an opera whose title role was premiered by...
Barber.
That's 20.
Nice.
Hecate swears sacrifice to Zeus if a hero successfully completes his quest to slay this figure who terrorizes Marathon. For 10 points each, name the snow-white progenitor of the half-human Asterius and the subject of Heracles' seventh labor. The death of Minos' son Androgeus at the hands of this figure sparks a devastating war lost by Athens.
Is it some kind of bull?
Oh, it's the Arimantian boar?
Yeah.
Arimantian boar?
It's
So-
the Cretan bull.
Cretan bull.
Oh.
The Cretan bull is slain by this Greek hero, who later slays the bull's son, the Minotaur, with help of Ariadne.
Theseus.
Acucilius identifies the Cretan bull with the bull sent by Zeus to kidnap this Phoenician princess and mother of Minos.
Europa. Right?
Mother of... Okay, sure. Sure.
Europa.
Yeah,
Nice.
that is last two for 20. At the half, I have Barrington 230, Hunter 150.
Okay. Cool.
Here in accordance.
All right, how's my reading? Should I go faster?
Great.
slower,
You're doing great.
Softer?
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's get this.
Toss up 11. Helen Wendler claimed that this poem's author silenced his own idiosyncratic voice in it. This 3-verse poem was its author's only one to be anthologized during his life and appears second in the hymn section of the collection Passage to India. This poem repeats the words "for you" in a verse that describes bouquets and ribbons.
If? Okay.
Bouquets and ribboned wreaths, and a swaying mass with eager faces turning towards its subject. This poem, which was first collected in sequel to Drum Taps, describes the people all exulting because the prize we sought is won. This poem's subject lies on the deck after having fallen cold and dead. For 10 points in this Walt Whitman poem on the deck.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Good job.
Yes. Bonus. In 2016, the International Booker Prize was limited to authors whose works were not originally written in this language. For 10 points each, name this language used for works by Nobel winners V.S. Naipaul and William Golden.
English.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is English.
Before the 2016 change, this author won an International Booker for immersive stories like The Turkey Season. Janet visits a planetarium the day before her father had surgery in this Canadian author's story, The Moons of Jupiter.
Monroe.
An author from this country, Ismail Kadare, beat out Philip Roth and John Updike to win the first International Booker for a novel by a general collecting remains from this country.
Albania.
That is 30. Toss up 12. This organization was informed on for 25 years by a spy known as Steak Knife. Members of this organization, known as the Nutting Squad, were responsible for killing informants known as touts. 2 members of this organization, the Price sisters, were convicted for participating in a series of car bombings that damaged the Old Bailey courthouse. This group recruited heavily following an incident in Bogside in 1972.
IRA.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Figured it was going to be that.
An early success in this field of astronomy involved observations of neutrinos, then optical light, then X-rays and gamma rays in 1987. For 10 points each, name this nascent field of astronomy that studies sources by observing multi-namesake modes of data describing different types of emission from the same source.
Multi-messenger. Okay. Multi-messenger.
That 1987 event was a Type 2 example of these enormous explosions of dying stars.
Supernovae.
Different messengers from the same source can arrive at different times due to interactions with this phenomenon, like in the mechanism of the GZK limit. Penzias and Wilson discovered this universe-filling phenomenon.
It's the cosmic microwave background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That is 30. Toss up 13. Wick rotating this quantity yields a Euclidean metric when it is assigned minus in the signature. An invariant hyperbola whose major axis is vertical has intervals like this quantity. Einstein developed a standard for
Time.
20.
Nice.
In reference to a 2023 lawsuit over the film The Blind Side, this author declared, "It's outrageous how Hollywood accounting works, but the money is not in the Tui's pockets." For 10 points each, name this author's 2023 book Going Infinite was sympathetic to Sam Bankman-Fried. He also wrote Moneyball.
Lewis.
The Blind Side is often cited as an example of the trope of people of this race coming in as
What?
saviors, an extension of an earlier idea that men of this race had a burden.
Yeah. White.
Going Infinite was often compared to Walter Isaacson's 2023 biography of this man, which broke the news about this man's denial of assistance for a Ukrainian sneak attack.
I think he
Coercion?
does like
I don't-
scientist biography. Should I actually go with that?
Answer?
Prigozhin.
It's Elon Musk.
Oh.
So that is 20 for the first two. Toss up 14. One of these devices appears in an image by Suzanne Kofed, whose dynamic redesigns have been criticized as more exclusionary. A village for these devices is imagined in a 1975 essay by Vic Finkelstein, who pioneered the social model of one concept. George Klein invented a powered form of these devices, which may be equipped with sip and puff tubes to deal with bridge plates. This was the largest type of device that ADAPT activists threw themselves away from during the 1990 Capitol Crawl protest.
Wheelchairs?
10.
Okay.
Michael and Randy Brecker both appeared in a 1975 album in this genre by Billy Cobham. For 10 points each, name this genre that blends elements of jazz and rock music, which was developed on albums like Miles Davis's Bitches Brew.
Fusion.
The Brecker brothers appeared on the album Red Beans by a player of this instrument, Jimmy McGriff. Jimmy Smith popularized this instrument's namesake trio, in which it is amplified with a Leslie speaker.
Ooh. Yeah.
Guitar.
Go for it.
Guitar.
It's the organ,
Okay.
electric organ.
Oh, yeah.
The Breckers recorded a 1978 album partially titled For Bebop, a virtuosic style of jazz pioneered by Dizzy Gillespie, and this saxophonist nicknamed Bird.
Charlie Parker.
That is first and last for 20, toss at 15. Court examples of these people in Thailand maintain Devasthan's giant swing and sow rice during the plowing ceremony as part of their duties to the Chakra dynasty. The Vindhya Mountains divide these people into their Panchagauda and Dravida branches. The acceptance of gifts is a unique duty prescribed to these people, who are the foremost members of the Dvija, or twice born, to go through the Upaya.
Just like Brahmins?
That is 20.
Nice.
Wait.
Hartree Field's book, Science Without These Things, builds up Newton's physics without them, showing they may not be indispensable for science. For 10 points each, name these things. Paul Benacerraf's identification problem poses philosophical issues with treating these things as abstract sets, as in von Neumann's construction. Answer?
Identity?
These are numbers.
Okay.
Field's project critiques a position in the philosophy of math that analogizes objects like numbers to this ancient Greek thinker's theory of forms, which he developed in dialogues like the Crito.
Plato?
The indispensability argument for numbers was developed by Hilary Putnam and this Harvard philosopher of two dogmas of empiricism.
Coin?
Sure. Go.
Coin?
Last two for 20.
Nice.
All right, so with 5 to go, I have Hunter 220, Barrington 350.
You got
Okay.
recordings. First, I got
5 to go. Toss up 16. A man in this profession named Matsumoto Koshiro is the subject of an Okubi-e portrait by Katsukawa Shunko. During the restoration, Margaret Hughes overcame a decades-long puritanical ban on women in this job. Nativist supporters of an American in this profession named Edwin Forrest instigated New York's Astor Place riot.
Actor.
10.
Nice.
This scientist spent hours stirring a hot cauldron with an iron rod in a facility she called a cross between a stable and a potato shed. For 10 points each, name the scientist who co-discovered radium with her husband Pierre in 1898.
Marie Curie.
New Jersey's radium girls got sick in a factory making these objects whose signature sound was produced by mechanical escapements.
Watches.
Yeah.
Watches.
Wristwatches.
Feels like watches.
Most of the radium for Vienna's Radium Institute was sourced from Yakimov, a mine in this region. This region shares its name with a kingdom founded by the Premysla dynasty.
I don't know. What about like Moravia?
Sure.
Moravia.
It's Bohemia.
Ah, the other Czech region.
That is 20 for the first two, toss up 17. An artist once remarked that a man with one of these objects is just a middle-class man in his anonymity. 3 of these objects appear at different angles below 3 different waxing crescent moons in the painting The Mysteries of the Horizon. A man who listens to a gramophone in this
Bowler hat.
20.
Guys,
A theory proposed in 2014 holds that bats act as reservoirs of zoonotic viruses because they cannot help but induce this symptom during flight. For 10 points each, name this increase in body temperature caused by an infection.
Fever.
The 6th edition of this book was the first to argue that bats fly to regulate their body temperature. Conveniently, the first Archaeopteryx fossil was discovered 2 years after this book's first edition was published in 1859.
Oh, this has a
On the
name.
origin of species outside.
Answer.
On the origin of species.
Flight as fever may explain why bats are unaffected by these viruses that cause hemorrhagic fevers in humans. This family of thread-like viruses includes Reston virus, Ebola, and Marburg.
Oh, the
the-
filoviruses?
No, Ebola.
Yeah, filoviruses. It said Ebola. Filoviruses?
Nice.
That is 30.
Western virus.
Reston virus.
It said Ebola.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
Right.
yeah, I think he did.
If we are all ready,
That we
will
are.
resume with toss-up 18. In microwave spectroscopy, the product of this quantity squared, the reduced mass, and the line spacing is always constant. At this quantity's equilibrium value, the Morse potential is minimized. The strongest peaks,
Oh, shit. Like ball line?
that's 20. The naive innocence of this novel's narrator contrasts with his knowledge of prussic acid and his act of casually leaving his friend with a penknife. For 10 points each, in this novel in which Leonora vengefully drives her philandering husband to suicide by spoiling the chaste love he has for his ward Nancy.
I don't know what's that.
Answer.
Aerosmith.
The Good Soldier. The Good Soldier is by this editor of the English Review, who also wrote the Parade's End tetralogy.
Ford.
Even though The Good Soldier has little to do with it, Ford changed the title from The Saddest Story to boost morale for this war. Wilfred Owen wrote the poem Dulce et Decorum Est about this war.
World War One.
Is 20 on the bonus. Toss up 19. In one play by this author, Lady Utterword explains how the stables are the real center of the household, while at the title home of inventor Captain Shotover. The title character of one of this author's plays chooses her husband over the young poet Eugene Marchbanks.
Shaw.
20.
Nice.
I saw that play.
Answer the following about the multicultural city of Mardin for 10 points each. Much of Mardin was built by the Archukids, who held this title used by Turkic rulers in Central Asia and the Middle East. A leader of the Golden Horde with this honorific in his name lends his name to a present-day Central Asian country.
Khan?
Yeah.
Central Asia.
Just go with Khan.
Khan.
Bay.
Oh.
Mardin's Saffron Monastery was built by these people who have lived in the surrounding region of Chur Abdin for centuries. Ashurbanipal led a Mesopotamian empire named after these people.
Assyrians.
Assyrians.
This empire's founder captured Mardin during his campaigns against the Akkoyunlu, but that founder later gave up Mardin after losing the Battle of Chaldiran.
That's it. I don't know. How about
Answer?
Mughal?
It's Safavids.
Okay.
That is 10 for the middle and toss of 20. This ion is recruited to both activation loops of a dimer formed when cells detect each other's effrins. Paul II's tail repeatedly reacts with this ion before it initiates transcription. Tau protein reacts with this ion and aggregates into neurofibrillary tangles. Binding of this ion controls the activity of the oncoproteins HER2 and RAS. A 7.4 kcal bond between two of these ions is drawn with a squiggle because it's so easy to...
Phosphate?
That's 10.
You did your best.
Anglicans fond of high ritual are often called smells and these objects Christians. For 10 points each, name these objects used twice when the words of institution are spoken in some Lutheran churches. These objects are used to signal the start of Mass.
Bell, maybe? I don't know.
So,
A bell.
Answer? Yep. Smells and bells Christians. Lutherans use bells to signify this two-word doctrine, which holds that Jesus' role during communion is both substantial and true, and not merely symbolic.
It's not transubstantiation, right?
It's a 2-word, right?
Answer?
Body present. There's a body.
Real presence.
Real, sorry.
A lynch bell was the last of 3 bells that rung during these events in Old English custom. Anglican sermons at these events recite ashes to ashes as earth is heaped over a coffin.
Funeral.
That is first and last for 20. At the end of the game, I have Barrington 420, Hunter 330. Good game, both teams.
Good game.